Welcome to the Savage Nation. We're all sitting here waiting to see what's going to happen between the summit of two of the world's most powerful men. Will it be the grave of Russia's army? No longer the Imperial Army, but they faced this before, and they usually fight wars of attrition. They're not like us, they don't count the dead. But I don't believe the death figures. Uh, we won't really know how many died on either side of this meat this butchering. I'm sick listening to this. How many Russians died yesterday? Like we're supposed to cheer it. Do you realize how sick and ghoulish you have become to sit and cheer when you hear how many men have died? How sick the fucking goddamn Democrats and the media have become. I'm sorry to curse. I can't take it anymore. They're the party of degeneracy, crime, perversion, sickness, death, destruction. I've never seen anything like it. They sit there smiling about dead people, counting the dead. This is the sickness of you people on the left. You want this war to go on. I want the war to stop. Trump wants the war to stop, and you call him an evil man. You sick people, you're all mentally ill. You belong in a mental asylum, all of you. Look what you've done to our cities. Look what you've done to the world. Now, whether you're on the side that believes this is naked Russian colonialism or that Zelensky is a new Churchill, all sane people must agree that the killing should stop. Now, all wars come to an end, and usually after a war, there is a victor and the vanquished. I will remind you that there is no shame in accepting defeat when you can never win. That's Ukraine. Even the bravest MMC fighter taps out to avoid being killed in the ring. And yet you would encourage them killing the last Ukrainian walking because you're sick in the head and you bought the lies of Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer, and the other vermin, scumbags in the media. These bastards belong behind bars for what they have done to stir up hatred and warfare, not only in Ukraine and Russia, but in the United States of America. They're all evil, sick men. Both Russia and Ukraine are exhausted. However, how many have been killed? Negotiations for a stop to the fighting are underway. And I don't believe it's going to be the grave of Russia's army, nor the grave of Ukraine's army. We know for sure one thing. This is the only thing we know. $175 billion was funneled into the hands of the Azov Battalion and the criminals in Ukraine by Joe Biden and the Democrats. And even Zelensky, the cokehead, has acknowledged that $100 billion of it is unaccounted for. Every speech. Now, what will happen as a result of this summit between two of the world's most powerful men? I keep hearing we don't know. Well, I know this. I believe a deal has been agreed to in advance because neither man can afford to come back empty-handed. There's no question in my mind a deal has already been struck, the exact details of which we do not know. Back in 2015, when I had Trump on my radio show at the time, I said we need to elect a businessman, not a politician. If you remember, that's what I wrote. We needed a businessman, not a politician, because all businessmen know that war is bad for business unless you're in the business of war. You can take that to the bank, Jank. War is bad for business unless you're in the business of war. Take that to the bank, Jank. So we all wanted to come to an end except the bloodthirsty scumbags in the media who want this war to go on, or the bloodthirsty bastards in the munitions business who want this war to go on. Fox News has the balls to have a guy on, General Jack Keane, who is known as a lobbyist for one of the major manufacturers of these macerating weapons. And yet they put him up there and he sits there with a straight face like he's an expert on what will happen when he wants war to go on and peace not to prevail. It's sickening. How does Murdoch do this? Well, I've told you for years about interlocking corporate directorships. This used to be a watchword of the American left in the 60s during the Vietnam War. They would warn us about interlocking corporate directorships, and most of us didn't even know what the hell it meant. What that means is, on the board of Fox News, which is owned by whatever the name of the Murdoch Corporation is, I forget it, I don't carry it around in my head, there are boards of directors. The same people who sit on the board of the Murdoch media empire sit on the board of, I don't know, Martin Marietta, whoever makes the munitions, Grumman, whatever you want, and they're on the interlocking corporate directorships. It's the same with the pharmaceutical companies, my friends. So you watch the cable channels, every ad is for another drug, another drug, another drug. How many people on the boards of these media companies are on the boards of these drug companies? Have you looked into that? Interlocking corporate directorships. Well, it's the same with war. It's the same with war. And those who are calling for more war, those who are calling Putin bad names and Zelensky good names, they're in it only for the profits that their corporations are making. It's that simple. Is there a right and the wrong in this war? Yeah, you can argue it either way, whichever way you want. As I said at the beginning of the outset of this broadcast, whether you're on the side that believes this is naked Russian colonialism or that Zelensky is a new Churchill, we all of us sane people, all of us decent people must agree that the killing should stop. Both sides are exhausted. And I believe that the terms of this summit have already been laid out in advance, or neither of the world leaders would have gone to the meeting. Uh, Trump's popularity is not at an all-time high as a result of many things. Whether you want to believe that or not is irrelevant. It's a fact of reality. Trump must come away from this with a win. Same for Putin, or he never would have gotten on that Aeroflot jet and flown to Alaska. They both must come away with a victory, a win, which is why the cokehead was not invited, because the cokehead is a little devil. Wherever he appears, he thinks he's the center of the universe. And I don't know what they did, coke him up or whatever, and he jumps up and down and stops the progress of any peace talks. He doesn't want this to come to an end. The cokehead wants it to go on, because the minute this war is over, he's history. They will put in a new president in Ukraine, and that will be the end of that. And then the rebuilding will begin. And the very same vermin who provided the weapons are probably already lined up to rebuild Ukraine, by the way. The same corporations that built the cluster bombs and the long-range missiles that macerated people by the thousands, the very same scumbags will be lining up to rebuild Ukraine. That's just the way the world is. It's that evil. It's that ugly. It's that dark. It's that horrible. And we all have to live in it. I recently read a book that I talked about a few months ago called Moscow 1812 by Adam Zamowski. And I talked about it at length in a previous podcast or broadcast on YouTube or wherever it appeared. 1 million men were killed. 1 million men between the French. The Grand Army was not French, by the way. It was partially French, but it was all the other European countries amalgamated under the madman Napoleon, the mad Hitler of his time. Napoleon was the Hitler of his time. It's true he didn't have concentration camps and he wasn't a racist, but in every other way, he was like Hitler. Napoleon was a horrible human being who caused the death of 1 million people on both sides. The French in the Grand Army and the others in the Grand Army, at the end of that war, when they had to retreat from Moscow, were eating first their horses and then they were eating each other. There was cannibalism. 1 million died in Napoleon's and because of Napoleon's madness. How else can you put it? Need I remind you that Hitler had to withdraw from Russia and lost his entire army because the winter closed in, and then the great German army was defeated primarily by the winter and then eventually by the Russians. The Russians generally don't lose wars. They will throw any amount of men necessary into the meat grinder to win a war. They win through attrition. They don't even count the dead. The Ukrainians are not any different. Fundamentally, the spirit of the Ukrainian, which is a warrior spirit, is the same as that of the Russians. They will fight to the last man. And that's why we come to today where Trump, who is a businessman, not a politician at heart, wants this to end. He wants the deaths and the destruction to end. And I'll leave it at that. We'll have to see tonight what happens. I'm sure that we'll all say it wasn't good enough or it was bad. And of course, the leftists cheering for Trump to fail so that the war can prevail. As I said, they don't want Trump to come away with peace or a victory. There is a blueprint for peace that's been laid out for a long time now. It's definitely going to require the Ukrainians to give up land for peace. It's going to happen. Whether Trump will go ahead and give up rare earth minerals in Alaska for this deal. Is it rare earth minerals in Ukraine or in Alaska? I don't know. I hope it's not in Alaska. Will he give up land for peace? Will he make Zelensky and the Ukrainians come to their senses? I think it's been done already. When I saw that some of the leaders of NATO, the more rational ones, not that pimp from France, that little psycho from France, who was one of the worst people the French have ever elected, that macaroni, that guy's crazy. Why is he even in power when he's done such damage to his own country? Ushered in hundreds of thousands of Islamists into France and wants the war to go on. Why? Power is corrupting, and absolute power is absolutely corrupting. Well, that's all I have to say now. There's no need for me to go on and on just to keep your attention. We're all waiting to see what happens. I just want to conclude by saying, no, this will not be the grave of Russia and their army. It will not be the grave of Ukraine and its army. Remember, there are 8 to 10 million Ukrainians who have been dispersed, who have fled the country. Men are being forcibly conscripted, dragged out of cafes, dragged out of their apartments to put them on the front lines to die, and they're fighting back. Masked men go into houses in Ukraine to drag the last man out to die on the front. They're drafting men over 60 years of age. The country is exhausted. They want the war to end. Never mind what has to say. The Ukrainians want peace. The Russians want peace. They're cousins, after all. They're not really enemies. So I believe we will see some good things come out of this. I'm optimistic that it will come to an end. And I believe that we'll hear this before the day is over. Perhaps we will, perhaps we won't. But listen to what I said at the beginning. 2 of the world's most powerful men, if not the most powerful men in the world, would not have agreed to fly and meet in Alaska if there was not a deal in place before the meeting. Neither Putin nor Trump can afford to come back empty-handed. You can take that to the bank, Jank. I'm Michael Savage. Thank you for listening. Later on, I'll come back perhaps tomorrow, or not tonight, perhaps tomorrow for a follow-up on this, and we'll see what happens. Good night. Good luck. And remember this, bless the peacemaker. Bless the peacemaker. The killing must stop. The killing must stop. Only the scumbags in the media want it to go on. Thank you very much for listening.